Discover the shocking truth behind Michal, Saul's divine plan to use his daughter against David. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the air lay thick with tension in the royal palace of Gibeah, where hearts were heavy and shadows whispered of unrest. The once jubilant tunes of David's harp echoed faintly as King Saul's heart became a cauldron of jealousy, bubbling fiercely against the man who had vanquished his enemies and uplifted a nation, the beloved David. The king's derision simmered, fueled by a divine discontent that rippled through the court and danced along the walls, wrapping its sinister tendrils around his mind. As the twilight descended, Michal, daughter of Saul and wife to David, felt the weight of her life unraveling. She stood at the threshold of her chambers, torn by love and loyalty. The merriment of the court seemed distant, swallowed by the darkening shroud of her father's fury and envy. Her brother Jonathan had tried to reason with their father, but his efforts fell flat against the cold walls of Saul's discontent. Each feast grew more unbearable, adorned with an atmosphere of dread, for Saul's once fond gaze upon David had morphed into a piercing glare that searched for betrayal. Why does the king allow his heart to be consumed? Michal pondered, heralding a faint glimmer of anguish as her thoughts danced unbidden to the glories of David, his valor in battle, the victories of the Lord that triumphed through him. She was bound by the covenant of marriage to this anointed man, yet her ties to her father, the king, pulled cruelly on her affections. Oh, the bitter seed of division! She whispered, for the thought of deceiving David in service to her father wrenched her heart. Yet the storm brewed as King Saul summoned her into his darkened chamber. "You will be my key, Michal," he commanded, his eyes ablaze with determination. "You shall use your affection to ensnare the heart of David." Fear wrapped around her. How could she betray the one whom the Lord had chosen as king? The weight of her father's expectations pressed heavily upon her soul. Each evening thereafter, when David entered the quiet of their shared chamber, laughter was wrought with a sorrow that neither could name. His warm gaze upon her grew troubled, and in whispered tones, he conveyed his fears. "The king's heart is against me, Michal. What shall become of us?" The connection they forged in the fires of faith now lay bare, a love intertwined with the threads of destiny and divine appointment. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As night thickened around them, Michal's heart thudded heavily with the choice she had to make. In her mind's eye, she envisioned the trust that would be shattered should she proceed with her father's plan, for nothing less than betrayal was in the offering. But love, fierce and unyielding, guided her resolve. In both fear and faith, she devised a ruse, a way for David to escape the snares laid by her father. With God's providence as her cloak, she whispered words of comfort to David, every syllable laced with urgency and care. As Saul's footsteps fell heavy and ominous in the halls, Michal felt the tempest rise within her spirit. Could she protect the man chosen by God? A single breath could change the course of her life, and the future of a kingdom hung in the balance. In that critical moment, the echoes of her father's fury loomed large, a gale yearning for release. What redemption could emerge from betrayal, and what divine purpose lay waiting to be uncovered, hidden, yet yearning to unfold? The night held secrets that only time would reveal. As the first light of dawn crept into the palace of Gibeah, casting shadows against the stone, Michal wrestled with the weight of her intentions. The world around her stirred awake, oblivious to the storm that raged within her heart. As she prepared her thoughts, she recalled the teachings of the Lord's servant Samuel, who spoke of obedience and faithfulness. Yet what was she to do in a world that demanded her loyalty be split between her father and the king whom God had anointed? "Shall I betray the one who plays before the Lord?" she whispered in prayer, her voice trembling with the depths of her dilemma. "Guide me, O Lord, for my heart fears the path of deception." With each passing hour, Michal's resolve crystallized. She would not turn her back on David, rather, she would be the means of his escape. And so, with careful thought, she summoned a servant whom she could trust, a young man named Eben, whose heart was loyal and whose feet were swift. "Go swiftly to the cave of Adullam," she instructed him. "Tell David that danger looms, that King Saul seeks to take his life by any means necessary." As Eben departed, Michal's heart ached, foreseeing the peril that David faced. The memory of their first meeting filled her with warmth, how he played the harp to soothe her father's spirit, bringing calm to troubled waters. That man was the chosen one, a shepherd turned warrior. No matter the cost to her own heart, she felt compelled to protect him. The hours stretched and the tension mounted. Saul's men scoured the land, seeking David with a ferocity that cut through the very air of the kingdom. Michal, aware of the uncertainty surrounding her actions, stood watch at their window, her heart beating in tandem with the drums of fate. "Lord of hosts," she uttered silently, "you see the deceit woven within this palace. Protect David, your chosen servant. Let not my hand be turned to evil, nor my tongue speak falsehood." As night fell again, cloaking the kingdom in its deep blue embrace, Michal received word from Eben that David would arrive shortly. Her heart raced with both anticipation and trepidation. In the shadows, she prepared a bed for David to hide within, covering him with a tapestry woven with care, lest the guards upon their rounds chance upon his presence. But as the guards entered, demanding to know if David was there, Michal's spirit steadied. "He is gone," she deceived, her voice steady despite the tremor within. "He has fled to another place. Why do you seek him in my home?" She could feel every eye upon her, the tension laden with suspicion. Yet she held her ground, embodying the fierce strength that the God of Israel endowed upon her. As they departed, their voices fading into the distance, Michal breathed an almost silent prayer of gratitude. Her act of defiance would surely echo in the halls of their history, preserving the one who was the embodiment of the Lord's promise for Israel. Yet as she turned from the door, the gravity of her choices weighed heavily upon her. With love intertwined with the thread of obedience, she questioned what price she would pay for her loyalty, as echoes of her father's wrath loomed large. In her heart, the story had only just begun, for the burden of betrayal and protection came with a heavy crown. Indeed, what truth awaited her as the winds of destiny continued to weave their plan? Little did she know that the Lord had greater designs at play, ones that would forever alter the trajectory of her life and that of David's kingship. As the night unfolded, a question loomed: what hidden purpose awaited the dawn? As dawn broke over Gibeah, the frail light signaled not only the start of a new day, but also the culmination of Michal's treacherous resolve. Her heart quaked within her chest as she contemplated the choices etched into the fabric of her destiny. In her mind lingered the echoes of those who sought David's blood, and the promises made by God through his prophet Samuel. With the sun hung low, illuminating her path, Michal donned her garments with tremulous fingers. She sensed the weight of her father's watchful eyes, felt the pulse of his ambition coursing through the air like a tightening noose. "Lord, if only you would grant David a moment of peace," she prayed silently, fear intermingling with hope. "May your will be done even amidst the storm." Meanwhile, King Saul sat upon his throne, his spirit darkened by jealousy and fury. Word had reached him of Michal's defiance, and a bitter plot began to unfold within his heart. Accompanied by his trusted advisers, he issued commands to scour the regions around the cave of Adullam, for he believed David had sought refuge in the embrace of God's chosen one, his own daughter. "Send men across the land," Saul proclaimed, his voice reverberating within the walls of the throne room like thunder. "Let no one rest until David is found. The anointed of the Lord shall not escape my wrath." His eyes glimmered with a fierce determination, a zeal rooted in the desire to reclaim his throne. In a secluded part of the royal palace, Michal pondered her next move, her heart heavy with fear for both David's safety and her own torn loyalties. What cruel fate had drawn her into this web of deception? "If only I had the power to shield him from harm," she lamented, "yet I am but a woman in peril, caught between father and the king anointed by God." As she gazed out towards the horizon, she glimpsed a figure loping towards her, a messenger from David, dispatched to update her on his movements. Breathless, he recounted the recent skirmishes, the chilly eyes of Saul's men lingering close. "Lady Michal, my heart trembles, for every breath draws David closer to his fate, he disclosed. Renewed by the urgency, Michal's resolve sharpened. Let us not dwell upon despair, she replied with fierce determination. We must act swiftly. I will deliver a message to him, a warning and a plea for protection. She grabbed a parchment and quilled her thoughts, her hands steady although her spirit wavered. While she bent diligently over the parchment, shadows lengthened in the palace. Word had spread of Michal's actions, whispers weaving through the kitchen and courtyard. The daughters of the court, charmed by tales of David's mighty acts, began to regard her with envy. Why does she remain loyal to a fugitive? They murmured, not understanding the unbreakable bonds forged through love and divine purpose. That in the distance, the howls of bearded men seeking vengeance echoed against the land, a portent of chaos and bloodshed. Michal, sensing the heightened ferocity of the chase, clasped the parchment tightly, feeling an invisible bond tethering her to David's fate. With eyes brightly lit by divine purpose, she ascended to the tower, sending the message through a trusted friend toward the sanctuary of David. Little did she know that God's hand was orchestrating events beyond her comprehension, for within her act of devotion lay the very seeds of his greater plan, a plan that would alter the fate of Israel forever. As the messenger galloped into the distance, a single spark igniting their secret alliance, realization dawned upon Michal. The Lord has placed me here for a reason, a purpose intertwined in his sovereign design. With each revelation came a heavier burden. Little did they know, an even darker challenge awaited them on the horizon, as the shadows of vengeance loomed over the loyal heart of a king. What unknown trials lay ahead, in the heart of the one who was chosen by God? As the messenger rode swiftly towards the hidden refuge of David, Michal felt the weight of her actions like a heavy cloak draped upon her shoulders. Her heart beat with a mixture of dread and anticipation, knowing that her choice had set into motion a turbulent tide that could swallow them all. In the shadows of Gibeah, Saul festered with humiliation and rage, gnashing his teeth as he sought for assurance amidst his unraveling kingdom. Have my guards returned? He demanded, his voice a low growl, suffused with a king's desperation. A steward stepped forward, his eyes wide with fear. Not yet, my lord. They comb the mountains and hills, but David is elusive as a vapor, he replied, keeping his gaze low. Saul, driven by the flames of his wrath, struck the armrest of his throne with a fierce fist. Then let the entire land know. I will not rest until that shepherd is brought before my feet like prey, whether it is by my hand or by deceit of another. His thoughts began to twine around Michal's loyalty, a weapon he could brandish as both a shield and a sword against the Anointed One. Meanwhile, in the distant wilderness, David sat with a handful of his trusted men. They were weary from flight, yet their spirits were bound by a shared conviction of the Almighty's promise. As David lifted his gaze to the starlit sky, he prayed earnestly, O Lord, you have set me apart, yet I feel the shadow of Saul closing in. Grant me wisdom and guidance. Suddenly, the familiar figure of Jonathan emerged from within the thicket, illuminating the dimness of the night. The deep bond of friendship warmed their hearts as Jonathan hurried toward him. David! He exclaimed, urgency echoing in his voice. I have come to warn you. My father seeks your life relentlessly. But I bring tidings from Michal. She has sent word of your peril. You must flee further still. David's heart leaped at the mention of Michal. What of her? Is she safe? His desperation cut through the burden of the moment. She is brave, my beloved friend. But Saul's heart is consumed with vengeance. We cannot tarry, Jonathan pressed. Let us come together. Your faith in the Lord will illuminate the path. As they spoke, the true depth of loyalty and love became apparent, interwoven by unseen divine threads. The night air crackled with a sense of expectation, as if the heavens themselves were listening to their earnest confessions. May the Lord be with you, David, for surely his hand has placed you upon the throne, though you must now walk through the valley of shadows, Jonathan affirmed, casting a reassuring glance. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within David's soul. I will trust in him. His promise, like unyielding mountain rock, stands firm. If it be his will for me to endure, then I shall not falter. Meanwhile, Michal, in the sanctuary of the palace, overheard whispered plots against her. She could feel the chill of betrayal gliding through the corridors, as those who once admired her now turned towards her with eyes clouded by suspicion. Amidst the gathering storm of animosity, she remained steadfast, clinging to the truth that God was sovereign even in strife. Even when betrayal dances close, my heart shall sing of his faithfulness. She breathed fervently, entreating the Lord, trusting that somehow her efforts might veil David from darkened threats. Thus the stage was set, alliances shifted, faith tested, and the prayers of the faithful would ring in the ears of the Almighty. For God had woven a striking tapestry of courage, heartache, and divine purpose. Unbeknownst to Michal and David, the true trials were yet to unfold. What unforeseen revelations would emerge as they each ventured deeper into the labyrinth of God's sovereign plan? And it came to pass in those days, that the heart of Michal was troubled as she contemplated the turn of events. Even in the recesses of the palace, she sensed the dark clouds gathering. Her father, King Saul, was not merely a father burdened by pride, he was a king in turmoil, consumed with an unwavering resolve to extinguish the light that David represented. Michal, her spirit entwined with love for David, understood the peril she faced by remaining at her father's side. In the silence of her chamber, she knelt before the Lord, beseeching his mercy. O God of Israel, could it be that my love is a weapon in my father's hand? Guide my heart, and grant me wisdom to tread this treacherous path. For the life of the Anointed One weighs heavily upon me. Meanwhile, Saul, consumed with his ill designs, gathered his nobles within the great hall. The flickering torches cast shadows like specters upon the walls, mirroring the forbidding storm that brewed within his heart. Let it be known. That traitor, David, shall not escape my grasp. We shall make an example of anyone who dares to harbor him. Can none see that the throne of Israel is threatened? His voice thundered with authority, striking fear into the hearts of those assembled. A captain of his guard stepped forward, eager to prove his loyalty. O king, grant us but a word, and we shall scour every valley and cave until the name of David is silenced. Bring me my daughter. Saul commanded, an ambitious gleam igniting in his eyes. The nobleman exchanged uneasy glances, sensing that Saul was weaving another treacherous thread. As Michal was brought into the chamber, she stood adorned in her royal garments, yet her heart bore the weight of impending deceit. Father, what is it that you desire of me? She asked, maintaining a facade of composure. Is it not time for you to choose the path of allegiance? Saul pressed, his tone coated with veiled threats. Go to your husband, and feign your love for him, but see that he is ensnared. Draw him out that he may divulge his secrets. Let not your heart betray your kin for the one who will bring destruction to our house. Tears threatened to spill from Michal's eyes, but she held her ground. Father, can the heart be commanded? I love David as a warrior loves his sword, I would not betray him for the throne of Israel. For has the Lord not appointed him to be king? With an icy glare, Saul hissed, You will do as I say, lest you taste the bitterness of my wrath. In the wilderness, David and Jonathan sought refuge, where the voice of the Lord spoke sweetly in the silence. Let us depart to the land of Ziph, where we may find safety. The time has come for the faithful to stand strong against the schemers of men. And so they journeyed, eluding the hand of Saul, yet the echoes of deceit lingered in the halls of power. Back in Gibeah, the fragile threads of loyalty were being woven into an exquisite tapestry of divine suspense. Michal took her place in the drama unfolding around her, tormented by the conflict of loyalty to her father and her love for David. Yet in silence, she sought God's wisdom, drawing strength from the promise of his presence, for unknown to them all, the Lord's sovereign plan was unfurling like a scroll before their very eyes, a plan that would render the hearts of kings lay low, and bend the strongest wills to his purpose. What divine intervention awaited as the hearts of man collided with the will of God? This would soon be revealed in a manner they could scarcely imagine. And it came to pass in the days that followed, that Michal was not idle. Grappling with the burden placed upon her by her father, she steadfastly sought refuge in prayer. In her heart, a tempest stirred, for she knew that to betray David would be to shatter her own soul. She turned her eyes to the heavens and implored, "O Lord, lead me not into the snare of my father's design. In these times of peril, grant me clarity, for I shall not yield to darkness." Meanwhile, in the land of Ziph, David and Jonathan convened in the shadows of the stronghold. A bond forged in the crucible of battle and loyalty, the two warriors clasped hands in a sacred oath. David spoke solemnly, "Though my days are fraught with danger, I will trust in the Lord's deliverance. But tell me, my beloved friend, shall we forsake hope? Is there no way for light to shine through this despair?" Jonathan, ever faithful, replied with resolute conviction, "Fear not, David. The God of Israel has not forsaken you. He shall preserve your life, as he has anointed you to be king over his people." Yet unbeknownst to them, the keen ears of Saul's spies prowled the wilderness, seeking to entrap the son of Jesse. They carried whispers of betrayal on their lips, reporting to their king with sinister delight. "The anointed is concealed in the land of Ziph, O king. Shall we not close the net around him?" Saul's heart swelled with a malicious glee. "Send forth the men, for we shall not rest until David is in our hand. He shall taste the bitterness of defeat." Back in Gibeah, in a moment laced with tension, Michal found courage blooming anew. Hearing the footsteps of the guards approaching her chambers, she understood that they came to speak of her father's wicked plan. "By the God I serve, I will not be made a pawn," she cried within her heart. "Help me, O Lord, to protect him whom you have chosen." When her father's captain arrived, his visage marred with fervor, he conveyed the king's command. "Lady Michal, you must prepare yourself for the task set before you. The king demands that you become the bait to lure David into a snare." With vehemence, Michal interjected, "A daughter's heart cannot betray her love. I will not lead him to destruction." The captain faltered at her defiance, for he sensed the tumult of emotion beneath her words. "No, O captain, that love is a bond stronger than mere commands. And my heart shall remain faithful to the anointed of the Lord." As anguish tinted her resolve, Michal hatched a plan of her own, hoping to turn the tides that threatened her beloved. Seeking to warn David, she prepared a means by which he could elude the grasp of Saul yet again. "I shall create a false illusion, a facade to shield you. Go, in the dark of night, and let thine escape be swift," she vowed, and so, in the dead of night, she laid a household idol in her bed, shrouded in blankets as though David himself were sleeping there. While the guards pounded on her door, demanding entry, she knew her time was limited. "O Lord, guide him safely away," she whispered, fear and hope intertwining as one. The guards, seeing what appeared to be a slumbering David, reported back to Saul, boasting of their triumph. Yet as they turned their backs, the faithful Michal breathed a sigh of relief, trusting that the Lord had intervened, for indeed, unseen forces were at work, the very winds of heaven were shifting. And there in the wilderness, unbeknownst to all, God was preparing his great purpose that would reverberate through all generations. A promise hung palpable in the air, waiting to be unveiled, for the Lord had said, "A heart that stays true amid treachery shall find a way to fulfill my plan." What had yet to be seen was how deep his plans ran, and what sovereign design would soon ignite the fates of those involved. A battle was brewing, not merely of flesh, but in the spirit, a contest of destinies that would alter the course of Israel forever. And it came to pass that as the dawn broke over the hills of Ziph, a profound stillness enveloped the land. David, now fleeing the grasp of Saul, found solace in the strength of Jonathan's friendship. With the light softening the edge of danger, he turned to his stalwart companion and spoke earnestly, "Let us gather our thoughts in prayer. We must seek the face of the Lord for guidance, for the path ahead grows dark." Jonathan, sensing the weight of despair upon his friend, knelt beside him, their heads bowed low. "O God of our fathers," Jonathan cried, "thou who art a refuge in times of trouble, direct our steps as we walk this treacherous road. Thunder your will as the rain falls upon the earth, renewing our spirits." But in the royal halls of Gibeah, the fiery zeal of King Saul surged like a tempest. "Where is my daughter?" he demanded. "I shall have her summoned." His heart simmered with rage, for he believed treachery sat upon every corner and ally. Let her be a tool of my revenge, create a snare from which David shall not escape. The guards scurried away, while Saul seethed with a bitter determination, for he had not forgotten the words of the prophet Samuel about the one anointed to take his place. Meanwhile, Michal courageously awaited new orders, her thoughts consumed with David's safety. Once more, she sought the throne of grace with earnest supplication. O Lord, deliver me from my father's plans, and grant strength to David. Let your hand shield him from the wickedness of man. As she rose from her prayers, she felt an unshakable resolve blooming in her heart. I shall not be complicit in my father's malice, she whispered fiercely, her spirit ignited by the flame of righteous love. Yet just as Michal set forth to communicate with David, she was intercepted by the captain of her father's guard. Lady Michal, the king has set forth a new command. Your duty is to partake in this hunt. You shall call David back into danger. A fierce anger surged within her, but she masked her defiance with composure. I will not betray the one whom God has chosen. Indeed, I am sworn to one far above my father's will. With that consequence held firmly in her grasp, she feigned obedience, plotting to send a secret message to David, and in the wilderness, David, feeling the looming threat of death, questioned what fate awaited him. Would he find refuge? Would God's promise remain true? He turned to Jonathan, whose spirit bore the light of unwavering faith. What shall we do if my escape grows impossible? Will the Lord still preserve his anointed? Jonathan looked intently into David's eyes, saying, The covenant which binds our hearts shall not break, for the Lord is with you. We shall devise a sign. If I signal to you, you will know that the plans of Saul shall not prevail. Our hearts are united in this battle for justice. So they devised a bold plan. Jonathan would go and infiltrate his father's council, while David would seek solitude in the surrounding woods until the truth was revealed. As Jonathan departed, there was a hush among the trees, as if creation itself held its breath, awaiting to see what the next hour would unfurl. It was in this moment of waiting, with hearts anchored in the faithfulness of God, that unforeseen divine intervention lurked close at hand. For at that very moment, the eternal designs of heaven were unfolding with purpose and power, promising deliverance even in the face of despair. What Michal would soon discover, by following the compass of her heart, held the weight of a fate intertwined. How her defiance would provoke a journey that would resonate through time and embrace the chapters of divine sovereignty yet to be written. And it came to pass that Jonathan approached the fortress of his father, cloaked in the shadow of intrigue. As he entered the great hall of Gibeah, the tension hung heavy like a storm cloud, and the king's voice thundered through the chamber. Bring me the high priest. I will seek counsel by the Urim and Thummim, Saul commanded, his countenance fierce and his heart a tempest of fury against David. Jonathan's heart raced as he took his place amongst the court, keen to discern his father's intent. What news, my father? He asked with false innocence, masking the loyalty that burned fiercely for his friend. Saul's face twisted in suspicion. I have heard whispers of David's treachery, he spat, his eyes narrowing. He lurks in the wilderness, a fugitive bound for chaos. He claims to be your friend, but the truth is written in his very blood. Nay, my father. Jonathan interjected, his voice steady as a rock amidst the surging sea. David seeks not to usurp the throne, but rather to serve, loyal to your lineage. He is the anointed of the Lord, chosen by God himself to shepherd Israel. Speak not of my lineage when the line of my reign wanes. Saul raised his hand, halting Jonathan's declaration. What say you? Shall we call upon Michal, my daughter? She will lure him, and then I shall strike. Jonathan's heart sank at these words. Do not turn her into a weapon, father. She loves him as he loves her. This treachery will bring no glory, only sorrow. But Saul, blinded by his wrath, would not be swayed. She is a tool of the throne, my son, a pawn in this game. Only through her deceit can I reclaim my kingdom from this pretender to the throne. As Saul finalized his wicked plan, Jonathan took his leave, heart heavy with dread. He hastened back to the woods where he would meet David beneath the familiar oak, a sacred place of their covenant. Meanwhile, Michal, ensnared in her father's schemes, pondered how she might act. The weight of the impending betrayal pressed upon her spirit. "O Lord," she prayed fervently, "grant me wisdom to thwart my father's vengeful designs. Let me be the voice of the true anointed, hurling the deceit he wishes to craft." Silently, she set forth her plan, her heart aflame with love and faith. As she gathered her belongings, the sound of the guards echoed through the halls, a reminder of the danger that loomed but did not confine her spirit. She resolved that even in captivity, she would not relent. Time slipped like sand through fingers as Jonathan met David under the oak, urgency twinkling in his eyes. "My friend," he whispered, "the king's wrath intensifies. He has called for Michal to ensnare you. Flee. Take refuge in the wilderness until I can sound the warning." David's countenance remained steadfast, but his heart welled with apprehension. "Shall the Lord not fight on my behalf? How can I leave her to face such peril?" Before a word could escape Jonathan's lips, a flicker of understanding dawned. "You must trust in God's plot, for Michal, too, is woven into the tapestry of his will. Her love shall guide you, even in darkness." Thus, David concealed himself, blind to the great calamity that would soon unfold the climax of treachery and faith. Michal, tasked with betrayal, prepared to defy her father and preserve the one who was destined to lead Israel. What lay ahead was veiled in divine mystery, for beyond the wild winds of despair, God's purpose endured, waiting to be unfurled in fulfilling the covenant made with David, a promise echoing through the ages, that his chosen would ascend to the throne despite every plot against him. And it came to pass that Michal stood in her chamber, the shadows dancing against the walls like the turmoil in her heart. She turned her gaze toward the sky, which was painted by the twilight. Seeking clarity, she bowed in prayer, "O Lord, grant me the courage to act, and watch over David in this hour of peril. Let not my father's intent thwart your divine purpose." As night draped the land, Saul, unaware of the brewing storm of betrayal around him, summoned his servants. "Prepare my chariots and gather my men. We shall pursue David until he is brought to justice." His eyes burned with ferocity, consumed by the desire to remove any threat to his throne, forgetting that true kingship is bestowed by the Almighty. Meanwhile, Michal, in the depths of her heart, felt a clash between loyalty to her father and devotion to her beloved. She hastily gathered provisions and crafted a plan to aid David's escape. With trembling hands, she fashioned a rope, whispering a prayer of guidance as she prepared to lower him from the walls. At last, under the pale gaze of the moon, she made her way to David's hiding place, her heart racing with purpose. "David!" she called softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Come forth. The time has come for you to flee." When David emerged from the shadows, his eyes met hers, filled with both gratitude and worry. "Michal, my heart is torn. What danger do you invite upon yourself?" "Fear not, my love," she replied, her voice trembling with emotion yet resolute. "My father is consumed by wrath, and he will not cease until he has found you. You must go swiftly, lest you fall into his hands. This night, I shall not betray your trust. I will keep you hidden from his pursuit." As Michal lowered David from the window, the night air felt electric with divine purpose. But in their hearts pulsed a fear of what lay ahead. "Go now, dear David, and remember that the Lord's hand is upon you. He shall protect you, for you are the chosen king of Israel," she urged. As he reached the ground, David turned to her, his heart swelling with anguish. "May your sacrifice not be in vain, for I shall return, by the grace of God." With reluctance, David fled into the wilderness, unseen, a fugitive now, yet holding on to the promise spoken by the prophet Samuel, "You shall be the shepherd of my people Israel," 1 Samuel 16 verse 13. He ventured forth, trusting that the Lord would sustain him in his exile. Meanwhile, Michal, concealing the evidence of David's presence, placed an idol in the bed to give the illusion of sleep. When Saul's messengers arrived, she feigned ignorance, saying, "He is ill, my father resting, unable to flee." A cruel smile graced Saul's lips, for he believed in his impending victory. "Bring him to me, in his bed, that I may slay him," cried Saul with the fury of 1,000 storms. The soldiers prepared to carry out his unholy command, yet in the heart of Michal, hope flickered, a hope rooted not in the schemes of man, but in the faithfulness of God. She whispered fervently, "Divine Protector, shield him and make haste. For what these men intend, the Lord can turn for good." In the heart of darkness, God's light began to kindle, unseen yet mighty. As Michal resolved to shield her beloved, a haunting whisper surged through her spirit, "It is not by human hands that greatness shall be forged. No man can thwart the purpose of the Almighty." The pursuit was set forth, but unbeknownst to them all, a greater plan was swirling in the heavens, one where the throne of Israel would not rest in the hands of a man scorched by jealousy and greed. For God's promise would not be thwarted, and the rival king would become but a shadow in the light of his anointed. What would be the fate of David and Michal, and how would God's sovereign plan unfold amidst the tempest of their trials? And it came to pass in the midst of turmoil, that the hands of fate began to weave the strands of redemption and divine intervention. In the wild expanse of the wilderness, David sought refuge, his heart filled with courage and unwavering faith. He remembered the words spoken by the prophet Samuel and clung to the promises of God with each heartbeat. Yet, as he ventured through the thickets, the anguish of separation from Michal pierced through him, a reminder of the love that transcended the animosities of man. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the royal palace, Michal's heart endured the crucible of her choices. Though buried under her father's edict of betrayal, she steadfastly asked the Lord to guard David's life. "O God," she prayed, "Thou who sayest our hearts and the lurking shadows, grant me the strength to defy evil without losing my soul." Her spirit, unyielding, became a flame amidst the darkness, igniting hope for both herself and David. The winds of divine providence began their gentle whisper, stirring the very fabric of their lives. Unknown to Michal, as David hid among the crags, warriors loyal to him gathered, drawn by the light of his kingship like moths to a flame. They sought refuge in the shadow of his anointing, united in purpose to see God's plan unfold. As days turned into nights, word of David's birthright spread, kindling hope in the hearts of those who had once dwelled in fear. In secret meetings shrouded under veil of night, trusted allies devised plans to shield David from Saul's relentless pursuit. Among them were skilled archers and valiant men whose hearts beat in synchrony with the heavenly drum of destiny. Yet, in Gibeah, Saul's rage reached a fever pitch, dark clouds swirling in his mind, tainting every decision. "Bring me Michal," he thundered one evening, frustration burning through his veins. "I shall not suffer the shame of a fugitive reigning over my kingdom. She shall draw him to me, and his end shall come at my hand." The very mention of Michal's name unfurled a deeper wrath, as he dreams of controlling the tides of fate through deceit. But Michal, summoned once more, stood resolute amidst her father's plotting. In her eyes burned the fire of a resolute heart refusing to betray David for earthly matters. "Father," she spoke with tremulous authority, "if you seek the destruction of David, know that it is my heart you seek to break. The Lord has appointed him, and his will cannot be thwarted by treachery." Saul's responses were like thunderclouds rumbling before a storm. "Silence. You will obey. To disobey me is to invite your own ruin." Yet within her, the seeds of courage, nourished by divine love, only flourished. She bowed her head and prayed, "God of protection, hear my heart's cry. Shield David and bless our resolve to be united against the storm." In her moment of humility, the Lord answered. He guided her thoughts to devise one final act of defiance, a clandestine plea to the warrior in the cave. "Eben," she commanded one of her faithful servants, "carry a message to David. Tell him the Lord will deliver him, for my heart is with him, and I shall defy men who defy God." And so, Eben rode forth through the night, the stars shimmering like promises of hope above him. He burst into the cave of Adullam, finding David among his band of followers. "David!" Eben cried breathlessly. "Your beloved Michal sends word. In her heart, she bears you as the anointed. She has not forsaken you, her love remains steadfast amidst treachery. Take heart, for God shall shield you." Hope rekindled within David as if he had breathed life anew. "The Lord has not forgotten," David whispered, his voice taut with emotion. "I will fight for this divine mission. I shall not forsake my beloved nor the promises set forth by God." Back in Gibeah, Michal stood resolute, knowing that the tide of deceit was closing in. She could sense Saul's dark intent, a heavy shadow looming over their lives. As she walked through the royal halls, she could feel the weight of betrayal hanging in the air. But even in darkness, her spirit soared with the strength of unwavering trust in God's sovereign plan. Thus it was that David and Michal would see the dawn of freedom from the chains of persecution. As they embraced their sacrifice and love, they ignited a hope that would echo through generations. The day approached, and as Michal paced within the fortress walls, she prayed fervently. "O Lord, deliver my beloved from my father's wicked grasp. May our faith stand as the unwavering shield against jealousy. For thou, O God, are our true protector." At that moment, a messenger from Saul approached, demanding Michal return to her father. "You shall bring David forth, or suffer the wrath of the king." But Michal, filled with divine boldness, stood firm. "You shall not find me a pawn in his game of destruction. I will not betray my love nor my God." And as she spoke, the people in the palace began to murmur. Her defiance inspired hope. "The anointed shall arise," whispered those loyal to David. "For what is impossible with man is possible with God." Thus began a turning point, where the light of faith exploded against the darkened schemes of Saul. David knew not of Michal's defiance, but his faith anchored him amidst the storm. As word reached him of Michal's fervent stand, he found strength in her steadfast love. No longer was he alone, for the bond between them transcended the prison of fear wrought by man's designs. He set forth to rally the people, convinced more than ever that the Lord's promise was upon him. In the days to come, amidst trials and testings, Michal's love served as a beacon. For every trial faced, they became the defenders of God's good purpose. Thus, on the horizon of the wilderness, hope surged anew. David, guided by the promise of his heart, and Michal, burning bright with courage, would soon witness the fulfillment of God's sovereign plan. And so they shone forth as lights unquenchable, heralding the coming of glory, the throne of Israel destined to rightfully belong to the man favored by God. Dear friends, as the stories of David and Michal unfold, let us hold fast to the truth of God's sovereign hand leading in our lives. We each have a role to play, a stand to take. Do not wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony of faith with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Without delay, subscribe immediately to stay connected to God's Word. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, and comment below your reflections. How has this biblical story impacted your faith? This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, for we are all called to be vessels of His grace, letting this light shine forth into the world.